recording. What's on the agenda for today? Of course, news as usual. Then we have a presentation from Alan about SCANOSS, SCANOSS, an open source inventory engine. And I'm quite curious to learn more about that. And after that, all other business. News, I personally do not have so many news. Perhaps you are aware that Scott Peterson published recently an article about containers and compliance. The link is there, so you can read through the article. I was up to now not able to read it. Does anybody know this article and can tell the audience a little bit more about it?
Sure. I mean, yeah, very briefly Scott is presenting the problem that we all know, when we are delivering containers, which include binaries that have some obligation and requirements. How do we deal with it, right? And their idea, I mean Red Hat, because Scott is in Red Hat, is to use the same registry where you distribute the image of your container to have something like an image with the sources, right? And he explains that because of the wording on GPL, it's perfectly okay to have the sources in a separate container as long as it's available on the same download location, which is what we usually do anyway. So the idea is, if I understood correctly, I have to reread it again more carefully, but the idea is that Red Hat will start creating a registry that will host source container images, right? So it will be like a container image that only includes the source in there. They're not useful in order to run something, but it's useful in order to comply with your license obligations.
Okay. Okay.
That's very briefly what I got.
Sounds interesting.
Sorry, Oliver, just I wanted to add to that. I mean, I scanned through it very quickly, so I didn't really have a chance to digest it fully. But one of the things that he doesn't go into detail on is about the rebuilding the binary image itself for certain things that they include within the container. And again, that is, I think sort of the ideas that he puts across are what most people obviously would like to be able to do, but I don't think he's gone enough into the challenges of, well, how do you sort of ensure that the binary images are the equivalent of the sources that you're putting alongside. So interesting. I mean, I need to reread it again. Like Alexis, I really just scanned through it very quickly to see whether there was anything new, particularly in that area. But I didn't think he answered that question, which we all know is incredibly difficult.
Yeah, right. I think it was only about distribution of sources. Just
yes,
that's typical thing. And they say okay, we will create containers which include sources. Yeah. Okay.
yeah.
Okay, but all the as Sami pointed out, the build instructions and also the files which are necessary to build the container image, he did not really focus on, or
no, he didn't mention it at all, I think.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Anyway,
I think to be fair, I think it is worth a read.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Thank you.
Hey, this is Philippe. Do you hear me right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just on the topic of containers, if there's some interest, I'm working on a new tool to do the static analysis of containers. which should be pushed in the open sometimes in August. So maybe that could be of interest for me to present that to the group. I don't know, sometimes in August, probably third week of August would be best.
That would be nice, Philip. That would be really nice. I will make a note on that. As far as I remember, you had in the past a tool which was called Conan, not to mix up with the package management system, but is it based on this?
It's actually, so there's a new version of Conan. It's being renamed to Container Inspector.
Okay.
So that's the base. And the way it works is a tool to create pipelines to basically script the analysis of containers, which is, as we all know, fairly complex. I mean, it's tantamount to analyze a whole root file system, or actually several root file systems. And so it takes the approach to say, okay, this is complex. There's no one tool that can roll them all. So instead, I'm going to use multiple tools in sequence and progressively track the results of all these analyses in the database. So first thing you want to identify what is the distro used for a container. Then you want to figure out what are the files. Then what are the system packages that are installed and what files are for each of these system packages. If they are not part of system packages, you want to identify application packages and what are the files of these. And you want also to identify eventually anything that would be transient files like TMP logs, database, and all these things. And eventually leftovers, which typically would be the things that have been copied or maybe custom code and or proprietary code that you include in container image. So the whole point is to do this kind of analysis in sequence.
Okay.
Using multiple tools. So
cool.
It's helpful for some of the work we do on container analysis. So I'm sure it may be helpful for others too.
Yeah, I'm very sure about that. Great, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, I think. Are there any further news? Anybody wants to share?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, just one more thing. There's discussion right now with, so you may all know that I'm involved with the Clear-Defined project. And so there's discussion these days on how to exit from the incubation status at the OSI for the project. So just so you know, that's discussions that are taking place as the project has been maturing again. Reach a certain level of maturity.
Okay, and what are the requirements to?
It's just discussion. I'm just the news is that this is something that's under discussion. There's no the discussion are just barely starting, but.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Sami, you had also some?
I just wanted to say that last week we launched the OpenChain UK working group, and I see Andrew Cass has just joined, and it was actually a great event, a great start with almost nearly 60 people attending. So it'll be interesting to see sort of whether we get more interest in the tooling side, sort of from UK-based companies or companies that have presence in the UK.
Oh, cool! Yeah, I had planned a slot there, but then I got on short notice a management meeting, and I had to I was not able to give a short presentation, so it was a big pity for me and probably also for the group.
There will be lots of opportunities, actually.
Yeah, I'm going to be in touch and see if it's possible you might be able to give us a talk at the next session,
Okay.
which I think is the 30th of September is what we have penciled in at the moment. But I'll drop you a line anyway.
Okay, that would be great.
Yeah,
Thank
super.
you, Andrew.
Thank you.
Further news?
That's it from me. Yeah, that's it from me.
Okay. Thank you, Sami. So obviously not any further news. So then we switch to the next agenda item, and this is about SCANOSS. So Alan, it's your turn.
It's me, right? Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, fine. Thank you.
Okay. Well, thank you, Oliver, for inviting us to the meeting. I'm actually joined here by the founder and CTO, Juan Salamanca. He will introduce himself a little bit later. Thank you, everybody on the call, for spending a few minutes listening to us. Some of you may recall me, and don't hold this against me. I was at Black Duck Software as Chief Customer Officer for 7 years. Like I said, don't hold that against me. And I actually only joined SCANOSS, a couple 3 months ago or so. And I was inspired by what Juan described to me at the time. And I think it's worth just reiterating that for this audience as well, because it sort of positions where we fit and why we even exist in the first place. Yeah, and what Juan described to me is that in his experience, the current SCA tools, ranging from the legacy ones, the Black Ducks of this world, to even to some of the more recent ones, for the most part, don't fit really well in a modern DevOps process. I think all of them, if I'm not mistaken, are closed, proprietary, often difficult to integrate with your tooling. Many of them, if not all of them, are actually designed with an audit paradigm, sort of an episodic-centric paradigm in mind. They tend to be pretty people-intensive, post creating a bill of materials. And at least from what I recall, often represent some form of bottleneck in the development process. And what Juan described to me was just a totally different view on how to go about quote unquote SCA license compliance and everything beyond. And we want to spend a couple of seconds or a couple of minutes just describing to you the first steps that we've made to reinvent this space and address some of the issues that I sketched a couple of seconds ago. So what we're going to do today, starting in a minute, is to share what we've done so far and share a little bit about our thinking for the future. And hopefully, if everybody's aligned and everybody likes what they hear, we would hope to be able to count on the support from this team and actually guidance from this team as we evolve over the next weeks and months. So what you're going to hear is we're going to very briefly share our vision, and we're talking about one or two slides here. The product architecture, some of the key features, explain to you how it all works with some examples, and then we're going to do a Q&A. Not many slides. I think it's only maybe 5 or 6, maybe 7 by now. So you're not going to be killed by PowerPoint here. So that's all I had to say. I'm going to now just hand the baton to Juan Salamanca, as I said, founder, CTO, and he's going to talk you through the material. And any questions at this point from me?
Not from my side.
Okay.
Okay, hello. My name is Juan Salamanca. I'm the founder and CTO of SCANOSS. By the way, thank you very much, Alan, for the introduction, and also I would like to thank everyone here for the opportunity of sharing a bit of our work. So I'm gonna try and share my screen. I have some slides for you.
On the bottom you have a small screen icon, and if you click on this, then you should be able.
Oh
yes.
Can you see my screen? Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So yeah, just to recap, I would like to talk about us, about the product, about our vision briefly, and then we can obviously we can have a bit of a Q&A. So let's start by imagining. Let's imagine a world where SCA tools are 100% open source, so just no tricks, no, just plain open source. Imagine a world where SBON are standard everywhere across the industry, and you can compare, you can use tools to merge them, diff them, where open source inventorying is a standardized industry process. So it's not something that you do at the end of the process. So you always have an SBON and also the benefit of revision history. Just imagine a world where M&A's due diligence includes basically is based on validating this SBON and not performing a full audit. Just imagine cutting over 90% of the open source due diligence cost currently, and imagine that in an M&A, the SBON that you get, you can merge them into your development process easily. So that's basically the vision that we have. So who are we? We are the first open source SCA tool. Certainly not many SCA vendors have the same vision. They have embraced open source themselves, but we are here basically. This has not changed. Our tooling is designed for development environments. So initially the SCA tools were born to cover the needs for open source auditing during M&As and similar and product releases as well. And it's been a bit of a struggle over many years to integrate these tools into the development environments. We are committed to standardize the open source inventorying process. And to prove that, we have contributed our entire SCA platform, which is available in GitHub. We think it's a very nice, simple architecture, which offers innovation in many areas. And we very strongly believe that OpenChain should be the core forum for us to begin with. This is your main focus, and also you have a specific tooling group. In terms of our business model, how do we make money? We don't want to create any vendor dependencies. Vendor dependencies is exactly what we don't want, and that's why we are open source. But we need to make money out of this, obviously, and to build and we hope to build a sustainable business. And we have a massive knowledge base. We claim to be the most complete in the market. We offer subscription to it, and also we offer additional value-added services such as data aggregation, improved analysis, result accuracy, user interfaces, and also, well, this is a bundle in what we call post-scan intelligence, where we improve match results and provide data aggregation in the to improve the SBON, basically, for things like vulnerabilities, risk, provenance, or cryptography. And finally, we also offer commercial SLAs and support. So this is
one question. One
yes.
question. Yeah.
Sure.
But I do not. So you have said that this is SCANOSS is pure open source. So do I have then the possibility to create a knowledge base on my own, or am I required to?
Absolutely. Absolutely, you have. We give you the tools from end to end. And in the next slide, I'm gonna basically show you on a high level 20,000 feet view of what we have. So we offer the tools from mining to, which is the way we call the way we this is our concept for basically obtaining and creating a knowledge base. And we have a tool which is called Miner that allows you to do that and build your knowledge base gradually. And there's also all this is in a repository, and we also have a test knowledge base so that you can play end to end with the entire platform using a test knowledge base that has some basic common open source projects in it. So the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
And so this is a high level overview of our platform to illustrate so far what we have contributed. So on the left side, we have a number of client-side applications that calculate snippet fingerprints. We call them WFP, that stands for Win-Win Fingerprints, because it's based on an open source algorithm that it's and that we have also released. These WFPs are basically sent to the API via HTTPS, and the API routes the request to the inventory engine, and the inventory engine it's like a core application that handles all the logic of scanning and performs a comparison against the entire knowledge base and return results. The knowledge base is actually built using our very own technology, which we call LDB database, which stands for linked list database. It's basically a mapped linked list database that allows the storage of massive amounts of data. At the moment, we have something around 2 trillion rows of records. The query responses in microseconds. So it's very fast and it allows you to store potentially very large amounts of data.
Awesome here. May I ask a question, or should we postpone the questions till the end?
Absolutely, yes. Feel free to stop me anytime.
Oh, thank you. Is the knowledge base open source by itself, or is that closed source?
So the database technology, the LDB, is open source.
The data itself, what I'm trying to get at.
The data itself. No, I mean, you can, as you can imagine, the knowledge base is something that takes a lot of effort to build all the data, and so and actually it needs constant updates because it stores all the open source in the community. So that it's basically the knowledge base is a core business.
As far as I have understood it, it's like this. So you have all the tools available to build the required knowledge base. So you can build a knowledge base on your own with all the tools, and those tools are open source. But if you do not, let's say, want to have this effort, you can subscribe to a knowledge base which is then made and maintained by SCANOSS. So is that correct?
Yeah, that's pretty much correct. There's also, I mean, I think, yeah, you have the tools to build your own knowledge base. If you want, you can subscribe to pay a subscription to a big knowledge base, and you can scan against our knowledge base. But also, given that you have all the tools, you can build your own knowledge base. And I think there are some use cases, some corporate use cases where some customers might require to have their own components in the knowledge base, for instance. So
yeah, definitely.
So would you be open to have an alternative open knowledge base? For instance, could very much include your tools in clearly defined and scans the millions and millions of packages we have there to build also an open data set?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question. Could you repeat it again, please?
So the question was, would you be open to have an open data set? And I said, for instance,
yeah,
we could consider the tools clearly defined and just build a knowledge base on the tens of millions of packages we have there and just reindex the stuff pretty swiftly based on the infrastructure that's available there.
Yes. I mean that could be a possibility. We could have a conversation about that.
I didn't mean to put you in a bad position here. Sorry, I mean, I'm very grateful that a lot of the tools are open source, and the knowledge base is always a tricky question, and I do understand this is the core of the business as well. So I'm sorry if I put you in a bad position with that question. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I think it's very important that our message is clear. So yeah, I appreciate your question. Thank you. Okay. So basically, this is yeah. I mean, so basically, yeah, we could have a conversation about increasing or improving a knowledge base, and in terms of our business, we will always offer value with the added value functionality as well as SLAs and support of our platform. So okay, so let's continue. So we talk about there's a file in every project that called spawn.json, and this file is basically an SPDX or CycloneDX, so no tricks there. These open standards are very well known in the community, and this file is a bill of material. It declares the list of open source components and dependencies that you have included in your project and implemented. And as part of the validation process in a DevOps environment, usually every push, every commit that a developer makes is validated, as well as, when you do your static analysis and testing. So as well as doing that, our tools can validate this file, this bill of materials against the SCANOSS knowledge base, and using the information that is contained in this bill of material, in this spawn.json. And if we find that there are some matches against our knowledge base that are not declared in this file, we flag the commit, and you can flag the commit and by setting the build status to fail, and you can also see the details of the failure, which components are missed from this bill of materials, and then you can act. So the idea is that you can constantly build and act on a bill of materials. And also using the benefits of the source versioning tools such as Git, you have the benefit of having an entire history of your SBOM. And more or less, this is the way. This is a simplified sequence diagram of the mechanics of how a webhook interacts with your with source code repositories and a knowledge base. So after every push, this is basically a sequence diagram of what I have explained in the previous slides. So after every push, a webhook, which is one of our components, generates checksums of the deltas of the code in the commits, and it puts in the push then alongside the SBOM file to the knowledge base and retrieve some scan results, and according to that, if there are results, the build status is set to fail or successful, and we can also comment on another batch of okay or failed. So it's similar to other tools like, I don't know, Travis CI work in that familiar for developers. And this is since this is a technical committee, I would like to share with you a few technical details of our tools at work. So, for instance, this is our mining tool, which we call Miner. And in the first, there are three examples. It's a command line tool, and on the first sample we have a miner mining a URL, and this basically stores capture measurable metadata in a folder. On the second example, this tool is extracting snippets, the WFPs that we talk about, from capture sources. And the third example is an example of importing data into the knowledge base. This is an example of our engine, inventory engine, scanning against a full component. And this is an example of a component match, where our knowledge base, our scanning our engine can basically detect component matches, file matches, and as well as snippet matches, and I'm going to show you example of how the three of them look like. So this is an example of a component match. This is an example of a full file match. And what you see the match, the key thing here is the match, the ID of the match that tells you whether if it's a component file or snippet match, and also the match percent. And this is an example of, we have modified this file, and then we have a snippet matching, and you have, out of interest, the ID of the match is a snippet. And then it tells you the number of lines in the source file, in your file, against the OSS lines tells you the range of lines in the actual artifact, open source artifact that you're matching against.
One question: if I have, let's say, or if your engine identifies more potential sources, is this then a list of matches? So, for example, a file from my application can let's say match to Apache Commons or another open source package. So, is there then a list, or do you only, let's say, take the most probable match?
So, well, there's a bit of intelligence built in there by which we help greatly with the identification. I mean, for the benefit of the presentation, I chose one example that offer one single match, but of course, if there are multiple matches, we will show the matches. We perform things like, for instance, version grouping, where if you're matching against a range of versions of the same open source component, we will show you we will group the versions.
Okay.
If I may, I'm currently working on this open source snippet scanner myself, and I realized there's an issue with, for instance, license headers, because they are very common. And I went around this issue by just excluding everything that I deem too common. Is this a similar approach on your side, or is a line that is basically a license header always a match with literally everything?
We basically we have a set of we have identified a set of snippets, and along those license headers, and we blacklist them from our searches, and that eliminates that basically solves this issue for most of the cases.
If I ask by what criterion, I went with commonness. So if anything is common, it's basically automatically blacklisted.
So, well, I think that's entering a little bit into particulars of the algorithm, how the algorithm works. So basically, all license text and all headers, we extract winnowing fingerprints out of those, and we have added them to a blacklist, to a list of blacklisted snippets, and this is actually done at the mining time, so that we prevent entering garbage into our knowledge base. So the way the algorithm works is that it does some. We'll have to basically it basically doesn't. You don't match against exactly. Basically, well, I have a slide probably, and we can actually enter more into the details of the winnowing algorithm if you're interested into it.
Sure. Thank you.
But yeah, basically to summarize, we blacklist we have a list of licenses and we blacklist them, and this is done at mining time. Okay.
Do you provide this list of blacklists too?
Yeah, I think we do. Mm-hmm.
I mean, populated as not empty.
Yes, we do. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think that's basically it for me. I mean, do you guys want me to go into the is it of interest to go into detail of the winnowing algorithm that we use?
Perhaps you can. So these are this slide is about the repos on GitHub, or as far as I can see, because my screen is a little bit small.
It's a bit blurry. Yeah. So basically, I'm just telling here, just please follow us on LinkedIn. You can check out our contribution on GitHub and find out more about us in our homepage. Mm-hmm. And just to say thank you that you are here. Very valuable influences in the field, and we will appreciate your support.
Mm-hmm. So in the end, I have understood it right now. So SCANOSS is a kind of snippet scanner and create and provides the ability to create SBOMs, or is it correct? So of course it's much more, I think, but at least this is what I have now learned, or think to have learned.
There's much more. Basically, we provide an end-to-end platform that provides all the mechanics for our to implement this into a DevOps environment. And of course, you have a lot of pieces that you can use in isolation, but you have what we have open source is the entire platform, and that takes you from mining and building your own knowledge base all the way to we have webhook implementation, reference implementation that you can use. So basically, from one end to the other, we have open source, the API that allows you to integrate the scanner with other systems, so yeah, we basically the idea what we're trying to propose here is a process, and the idea is our engine. One thing that is an innovation is that our engine takes into account the contents of an existing bill of materials, as well as what you when you are scanning against open source against a knowledge base. So you build from previous knowledge. You're not basically starting a scan from scratch. If you already have a bill of materials that is taken into account.
Okay.
I do have a question. This may be more towards an actual standard, but because you mentioned the database, I think there's a certain chance here. So your database is used to identify software components. Will you also, or do you plan to extend this database to also include compliance artifacts? For instance, when you detect an MIT license and I want to build a third-party notices file or open source declaration file, I will have to include this MIT license in its original instance text, including the copyright. Do you also plan to include artifacts like this in this database to easily expand the bill of materials with compliance information about copyright?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question, and the answer is yes. We could basically consider we are thinking of extending a knowledge base to aggregate data from different sources. So that's actually a very interesting possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, Ron. We haven't talked for a while. Funny enough, so some of the things that you're building is exactly the same thing that we're building in open source toolkit. So we actually also include a bill of material from existing, and we also do use knowledge bases. The question I have, so we do the same shift left, and we're all building the same stuff. The question is, how do you correct it? So the detection is easy. Now, like there's tons of scanners and all the stuff, but how do you actually correct it at scale?
How do you correct it? Hi, Thomas. How do you correct? I don't know. Could you be a little bit more specific?
So no tool is 100% perfect.
Of course.
So the whole workflow that we designed in how we operate and all stuff, you need to basically, developers are basically happy to get the thing to build. They don't care about compliance. They don't care about other stuff. And so we basically have lots of experience of basically bringing compliance to basically kind of like shift left. And we see all the problems that happens. The developers are not familiar with it. So what most of the other vendors have done is they basically dumb down the level of compliance to basically, we only operate on the declared license. We don't operate on anything else, because when you show developers really what is included, they're going to be shocked, and they have no clue how to act or how to handle from a process perspective. Like really, they have no clue about all the dev. When they see a package that is declared MIT, they assume it's all MIT, no matter if there's GPL, Apache, and God knows whatever in there. This is not in their reality world. So one of the things that I always talk about with vendors about, shift left is nice, but if you don't do what we call in our side, we call this shift down, shift left. So actually shift down the knowledge basically down to the developers that they actually understand the scan before you do a shift left. Because again, they have no clue about licensing at this kind of level, or the complexities of package managers or inclusion of binary. So how do you want to do that?
Yeah, I mean, I think well, I don't know, this there are problems that are easy to solve and others that are more difficult, and I think your question is actually quite interesting, and I think one of the important pieces of our solution is one of the things I want to achieve is to bring visibility on these issues, because I think bringing visibility for everyone in the chain, in the process chain, helps communicate these issues and resolve them. And that's why we base our solution around standards and files that can be easily integrated and consumed by different tools. So in terms of developers, they basically, obviously, they will need some guidance, because obviously they need to make sure that whenever a new component appears, I mean, we need to, or whenever they want to include a new component, they need to comply with the corporate policies, I imagine. So, but I think one of the key things is to bring visibility into the process.
Sorry for interrupting, because we only have 6 minutes left. Then I have to conclude the call. Perhaps we can agree on a kind of follow-up if you are interested. So I have noted, for example, that Juan, you and Philippe synchronize about how to work with clearly defined, so using clearly defined data sets as a kind of knowledge base. Is this something you might follow up on in some of our next calls?
Yeah, I mean that sounds great, Oliver. I would like to. Yeah, if I can collect questions from everyone, I can prepare. We can prepare some sort of follow up. I actually have some questions for you about how we would interact with other tools like such as Fossology, Software 360, and even ORT.
Okay, cool.
I have just very few questions very quickly, just a couple of feedbacks. So first, on the knowledge base, I think there's been quite a few questions on that topic, and everybody's been frustrated about the lack of open data in that field. And if you're basing your business model on a proprietary knowledge base, I think that's going to be problematic, especially because very naturally, I mean, I'm working on putting a large open data set that encompasses everything from design and software heritage and more. So the trend is really towards open data. So that's just food for thought. Second thing, SPDX. Why haven't you considered using an SPDX BOM as opposed to a Cyclone DX BOM, which is more for the security world and less for licensing?
Perhaps to miss that, but we actually support both of them. We support SPDX and certain versions, and also we support Cyclone DX. So
because the example you gave was using Cyclone DX for US bound JSON.
Well, as I mentioned in this slide, we support SPDX and Cyclone DX. Currently, we support JSON formats, but we can also support XML.
And last about winnowing, to the best of my knowledge, that was a patented algorithm by the Berkeley University in California, which is the algorithm that's used also in bladder Protex. And so the general question is there any issue with patents? And second, is this going to be any better than what BlackDuck has ever been produced in terms of results? Because it's always been plagued with a lot of false positives.
Well, there are many open source winnowing algorithm implementations. Yes, you're right. It's an algorithm that was developed by the Stanford University by Aiken and others.
But there's a patent on that, so that was just wondering. It's not about the implementation; it's about the
algorithm
itself.
No, we don't think this. We have basically our own algorithm implementation of winnowing. So we don't exactly implement. This a slight variation. It's a slight variation of winnowing. It's not exactly the original, but it is based a lot on the work.
Well, just a heads up is that maybe there's no problem. It's just when I saw you were using that algorithm, then that's the first thing that came to mind. And we're a tough crowd because we know a lot about this space, so you have we're a bit in your face.
Yeah, no, that is very good. You know, very good comments actually. Yeah, I can tell. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Philip, for the questions to Juan. So regarding, so sorry, Juan, I think we cannot go into more detail on interworking with Physiology, Software 360 or ORT. Perhaps we can, as I mentioned, perhaps we can have a follow-up on this in one of our next meetings, and this will immediately bring me to my.
Sorry.
Yeah,
Oliver. May I ask Juan to just send an email to the mailing list so that we have contact information and stuff like that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Would be great. And regarding the next meeting, so either on 12th or on 26th of August, personally, I would like more to go to 26th of August because, you know, we have currently holiday seasons and I do not know whether so many people will be online. So what's your feeling about that? But we can also do it on 12th. So.
I mean, I think, Oliver, regardless of whether it's the 12th or 26th, I think you'll find that some people will be out. Certainly for us in the UK, August is generally where most people take time off. So perhaps we could have sort of a sort of slightly lighter weight meeting in August. And then if we're going to have a presentation that everybody is interested in, to do that in early September.
Oh, sounds good.
Wider audience. I'm just conscious that, you know, there's a large number of people, and whichever date we choose between the 12th and 26th, some people will be out.
I think that's a good approach. So let's target the 12th of August for this lightweight meeting, and then to have a more in-depth meeting beginning of September. and perhaps Juan and Philippe, if they find time to work on this clearly defined knowledge-based thing, would be nice if there could be an update. And Philippe, regarding your presentation on the container inspection tool, then it would be somewhere in September. Is this okay for you?
Yes, perfectly fine. Perfectly.
Okay, cool. Cool. Then thank you. I will send so I will yeah, with the mailing list. So Philippe and Alan should mail on the mailing list. I will provide the coordinates to them, and then I have to conclude the call. And happy to hear you in the evening.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.
Bye.
We will now transition to the afternoon call.
I record now. So regarding the news, there is not that much news, at least from my side. I only have this article by Scott Peterson about container compliance, and as far as I remember, the comments from Alexios and Sami in the morning, it's an approach to provide also source code container images. That's at least what I know right now. So I did not read the article right now. Are there any news you want to share? No, obviously not. Okay, then we can immediately move to our next agenda item, which is SCANOSS. And Ellen, the stage is yours.
Okay, you can hear me okay, Oliver?
Yes.
Okay, just making sure. Yeah, thanks, Oliver, for the introduction, and thank you for inviting us to the meeting, and also the team members for joining. My name is Alan Facey. I'm the CEO at SCANOSS. We might have to rename it to SCANOSS because everybody says SCANOSS, but whatever. Some of you may remember me from my Black Duck days, where I was the Chief Customer Officer for about 7 years. And like I said in the meeting this morning, please don't hold that against me. I am joined by Juan Salamanca, who is the founder and Chief Technical Officer at SCANOSS, and he's actually going to be taking the technical part of our session. And we only have a few slides, so you're not going to be killed by PowerPoint here. But I think it's worth mentioning actually the reason why I joined SCANOSS some number of months ago, based on a conversation that I had with Juan, and a general recognition on his part that the current SCA tools generally don't fit that well in a modern DevOps process. The way he described it to me, and this was also consistent with my own view from my old Black Duck days, is that the most of the tools, including of course the Black Ducks of this world, are closed or proprietary tools, and they're really difficult for the most part to integrate with your dev tooling. Most of them start with an audit type paradigm or episodic type paradigm in mind, which of course is a little bit different from how software gets developed these days. And in general, they're all pretty people-intensive post-software bill of material, and usually end up being a bottleneck of sorts in the development process, at least for most companies. And I was encouraged by Juan's story, which he'll tell in a few minutes, and enthused by the fact that it appears that we have made at least the first steps to try and reinvent this space and address some of those issues that I touched on a second ago. So today, what we're going to do is share what we've done so far and give a little bit of a glimpse into some of our future thinking. And my hope is that what coming out of this meeting, we can count on the support of this group of the members who are on this call to help us take this project to the next level. Juan will very briefly talk about our vision, the product architecture, some of the key features, and perhaps more interestingly for this team, so how it all works with a few simple examples. And I think he will be accepting questions throughout, but there is a Q&A session at the end. So with that, I'll pass the baton to Juan, as I said, founder and chief technical officer, and he'll take you through some of the more technical material. Any questions at this point before I pass that baton back?
Obviously not. So thank you, Alan, and then Juan. It's
Thank you, Oliver, and thank you, Alan, for the introduction, and thank you, everyone, for this opportunity. So, as Alan mentioned, my name is Juan Salamanca. I am the founder and chief technical officer of SCANOSS, and today I would like to introduce you to our vision and our platform, our product. So let's start by imagining a world where SCA tools are 100% open source. Just no tricks, just playing open source. Imagine a world where SBonds are standard, comparable, mergeable, diffable, where you can use tools to work with them as you wish. Because they are compatible, basically. And imagine a world where all open source inventorying is a standardized industry process, giving you the benefit of always having a bill of material across the chain and plus the revision history, or where M&As and due diligence include is basically validating this bill of materials instead of having to perform a full-on audit. Imagine that you can cut 90% of the open source due diligence cost because of this. You don't have to perform a full-on audit. You can just validate. And the bill of materials that you get from M&A processes can be merged into your development processes. So who are we? We are the first 100% open source SCA tool. Sadly, none of the existing SCA vendors have embraced open source themselves, but this has now changed. Our tool is designed from the bottom up for DevOps environments. So in general, SCA tools were born to cover the needs for open source auditing, and during M&As similar. And it's been a struggle to integrate them into development processes, even though a lot of people seem to agree on the benefit of continuously validating this bill of materials instead of, shifting left instead of doing it at the end of the process. Also, we are very much committed to standardize the open source inventorying process. And we have contributed our entire SCA platform in GitHub, and the link is here. So it's a very nice architecture formed with plenty of innovation in many areas, and we strongly believe that OpenChain should be the core forum for us, since this is your main focus, and also you have a specific tooling group. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this, and as Alan said, feel free to stop me if you have any questions. In terms of our business model, we don't want to create any vendor dependencies. This is exactly what we don't want, and that's why we are open source. We provide subscriptions to a knowledge base. We have a knowledge base that we claim is the most complete in the market. Also, we offer additional value-added services such as data aggregation or improved analysis results, user interface or dashboarding, which is something that we call post-scan intelligence. We basically improve match results and provide data aggregation for stuff such as vulnerabilities, risk, cryptography, and so on. And we also offer commercial support and SLAs. So in terms of what is our offering, this is a high-level overview of, just to illustrate what is our contribution in a single view. So on the left, we have a number of client-side applications that they all work like the same. They calculate SNIPPET fingerprints, and we call them WFP for winner-win fingerprints, which is an open source algorithm that we have also released. And these WFPs are sent to the API via HTTPS. The API handles the request to the inventory engine, which is the core piece contains all the business logic or the core piece of the application. The inventory engine basically performs the search and a comparison against the knowledge base. And the knowledge base is built using our very own technology. So we have implemented a database from scratch for this. We call this LDB, which is also an open source, part of our open source offering. Well, this LDB stands for Linked Database. It is a map linked list database that allows storage of massive amounts of data. At the moment, we have over 2 trillion rows in the database and allows query responses in a matter of microseconds. In GitHub, we also provide a test knowledge base as well as our tool, a mining tool. We call mining the process of extracting and downloading content and importing it into the knowledge base. And our tool is called Miner. All this is in GitHub, and this allows you to create your very own knowledge base or customize it. So this is our platform. And basically, there's a file called sbomb.json that is an SPDX or CycloneDX. This is the bill of materials, and this is a file that declares the open source components that are included and implemented. As part of the validation process in a development DevOps standard process, developers push code and every commit is validated against the SCANOSS knowledge base. And we also take into account the information that is contained in this file scom.json. So basically, if we find that the matches for open source components that are not included in this file, the commit is flagged and we set the build status to failed and we add the details of the missing components. So in this way, the bill of materials is gradually being built as part of the development process. And also we can use the benefit of Git or similar technologies to have a story of the bill of materials. And this is an illustration of how it works. Here it shows the interplay between the source code repositories, a component which is our webhook, and the knowledge base. And this is basically what I've been talking before. So after every push, the checksums of the code are calculated and they are sent together with the bill of materials to the API, and then we scan the results and we retrieve the scan results, and if there are any matches that are not included in the bill of materials, we set the commit, the build status to fail, and also post the comments as I mentioned before. This webhook, by the way, is also an open source component that is already available in GitHub, and it supports GitHub, and GitLab, and Bitbucket. And you can use it as reference for building further extensions. And well, since this is a technical group, I took the liberty of giving some examples, providing some examples of our tools. How do they look like? So, for instance, in this case, we have Miner, which is the mining tool, and we have a few examples of usage. In the first, you can see how you mine an URL. And this is going to leave metadata in a folder. Then the second example represents the extraction of fingerprints from capture sources. And the third example is how you go about importing the mined data into the knowledge base. And here we have an example of the output of our scanning engine when scanning against a full component. So our scanning engine or inventory engine provides three kinds of matches: the full component match, full file matches, as well as snippet matches. And in this case, this is an example of a component match. Next, we have what it will look, scanning a file and obtaining a file match. I think that the key here is the ID. The ID field tells you what type of match you're getting. And the final example is the SCANOSS engine scanning against a modified version of the previous file, where we obtain a snippet match. And here I can highlight that there are some fields called lines that show you the range of lines that match in the original file, and other field called OSS lines that basically shows you the range of lines match in the community file. So that's pretty much from us. So please follow us on LinkedIn and check out our contribution hub, and you can find more about us in our homepage. You are here, all valuable influencers in the field, and we will fully appreciate your support. So thank you very much, and if you have any questions, I will gladly answer.
Thank you, Juan. Are there any questions to Juan?
Hi, this is Gary. In terms of the matching, do you also do any license pattern matching as part of your scanning?
Not really. We only match against code.
Okay, and I think that's fine because there's actually a lot of good licensed scanners out there, and since you have some APIs, perhaps there's a way of, I'm wondering if there might be a way of integrating a license scanner together with your snippet and file level code scanner. Might be an interesting combination. There's a few open source options out there. Okay, good.
Yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We basically at the moment currently we support code matching. One thing that we do is that we blacklist the in every source code. I'm not sure that's related to what you asked, but basically what we do that is to avoid introducing noise in the database and reduce false positives and things like that.
Yeah, the false positives is always a big issue with the snippet matching approach. So that's good. That's good. Well, it's good to see an open source snippet matching code. I think that's a great contribution. And good luck with your business and the subscriptions. It sounds like a very interesting offering. And by the way, I'm also quite happy that you're using SPDX as one of the output standards, since I'm, quite fond of that set of standards. Oh, by the way, that actually raises another question in terms of the output standards and maybe more broadly working with the process standards around OpenChain. Any feedback to the SPDX or the OpenChain community? Anything that we could do to improve things to make it easier for you to use those standards?
Nothing I can think so. I can think at the moment. I think so far, it seems everything pretty well documented, and we're very happy to use the standards also as well. I think there's no need to reinvent the wheel, and also it enables simplifies integration and communication between the different tools in a process. I understand that an SCA tool, that a code scanner is just one piece into the entire end-to-end compliance pipeline. So yeah, integration and is easier when you use the standards. So yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Following up on Gary's question, since you have here also on the slide interaction with Fossology, which is of course a license scanner, what are your ideas on that, or do you have currently ideas on that?
So we don't have ideas. More is like a bit of like an open question. I would like to probably wonder if it would be worth setting up a forum on how we'll work with that. We obviously have here a code scanner, and Fossology is a very mature license scanning solution, which is open source, and we will be very interesting to see how we could work with that. I think it will be an interesting conversation. Although I anticipate it's not a small conversation.
So can you go back to the slide that you presented one of the results? Sorry, either component or file.
The snippet of the file, this one, the engine. Yes.
So this shows that you scan the file, and this is 100% match with something that, and you provide the URL of where you have it in your database, right?
Yes, we provide the URL of the file, the component, and that matches. This is low-level reporting from the engine. So this is our own internal format, which is JSON. And so, for instance, the URL is the URL of the actual component where it matches, with the version. If you want to know the exact file where you have the full file match is in the field called file. If that tells you exactly the name of the file that matches.
Okay, so obviously this takes information from your database or your knowledge base or whatever you want to call it, right?
That's correct, yes. Mm-hmm.
How did you decide on names for components? Because I see this one, you called it webhook, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if we're talking about integration with, any other product like Fossology and or 360, the naming is the important part.
Absolutely, and actually this is a very good question because it's something, in my opinion, something quite tricky. So our mining scripts contain logic where we generate the component and the vendor and as well as the version, and we use certain logic. So, for instance, in the case of GitHub, we usually a GitHub URL is something like github.com and then something, the username, and then the name of the project. So we use the username as the vendor and the username of org as the vendor and the component, the project name as the component. There's no, as far as I'm aware, there's no solution to this, and I'll be very happy to engage in a conversation about how to standardize that. Perhaps we could learn about how other projects have been doing it, such as Fossology.
Yeah. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
There are a couple of ways of referring to unique things, but one is the Perl idea and the persistent URL, package URL. That's it. Yeah, I don't remember that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the beauty of a standard.
Of course, this has to be somehow agreed upon if you want to exchange data. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you. Okay.
Further questions? Obviously not. So usually in the afternoon call there are not so many questions like in the morning call. So that's this is normal. So thank you, Juan and Alan. Thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
And of course, all the code is available on GitHub. And I think you're happy to receive comments and contributions on that.
Absolutely.
That's great. So So regarding the further agenda, now we are currently reaching the all other business agenda item. Okay. And all other business is the very important question: when do we have the next meeting? So today in the morning we discussed, because usually the August is the month for of the holiday season. And we agreed on having a brief meeting somewhere in August, so either the 12th or the 26th, and then longer or as long a usual 1 hour meeting again in September. So my question to you is, are your preferences more to the 12th of August or to the 26th of August? Because in the morning we said, okay, not all will be available at either date, so it's up to you whether you have a preference.
+1 for the 12th.
Okay.
Because I'm on holiday on the other date.
Slight preference to the 12th, but either is okay with me.
Okay. Yeah, then let's target the 12th. This is fine for me. Okay. Are there any other topics we shall discuss, or you want to share?
I just wanted to check. This is Gary again. I know on the email thread there was some discussion on the some of the SPDX tooling and the mentoring work that's going on, and the SPDX online tools. Was that discussed in the last meeting? I missed the last meeting.
To be honest, me too. Perhaps somebody in the call can answer Gary's question.
I think I'm mixing up SPDX and OpenChain reference tooling calls by now, so I'm not sure anymore. But I personally got some information with that respect. But I cannot tell you where this was.
Gary, what was the question again? Sorry, I missed that. I was.
No, I understand. No problem. No, this is just I missed the last call. Was there any discussions on the SPDX online tools or the SPDX tooling work in general?
No, I did a short presentation on what we're doing in Community Bridge. Right.
Oh, okay. That's probably what it was. Okay, very good, very good.
And so, the two projects that are running, and the idea is that in September, when the students are finishing, they should come and present what they did. Right.
Yeah. That would be quite good to get a presentation from the students. Okay, good. I was just wanted to check, because if there's interest in any information on that, that is something that we can provide an update on. I don't know if the SPDX online tools, there's quite a bit of activity on that. It's actually not part of the Summer of Code or the Community Bridge directly, but some of the students that have applied to those are actually contributing to improvements in the online tools. And we're doing a major upgrade of the deployment infrastructure. We're moving to containers and clusters and moving to an external database. So we're doing a lot of improvements, because there's a few reliability and performance issues in the current implementation. So if there's interest, on the online tools, and if there's an interest in an update, that's something I can provide in one of the future calls. So just let me know if there's interest.
Oh, I think this will be would be very interesting. So yeah,
definitely, yeah.
Yeah, and I think I'll recruit Rohit, he was the original Summer of Code student that wrote the online tools, and he's been mentoring other students now. I think this is his third year mentoring, so we've had 3 years of different students doing improvements to the tooling, and he's very actively involved. So I'll see if I can recruit him to join us and co-present what we're up to. Yeah, I think you'd find it interesting.
Great.
Yeah, I don't know if we wanted to maybe do that the meeting after the 12th, since most people will be on vacation and wouldn't want a longer meeting. But just let me know when would be a good time to present that, and I'll line up Rohit.
So personally, I think it will make more sense, since the audience is probably larger, to have the presentation somewhere in September.
That makes sense. Yeah. Okay. That sounds good.
Further topics? No. Yeah, then I conclude the call. Thank you very much, Ellen and Juan, for the presentation. And thank you all for your contributions, and looking forward to talk to you on 12th of August.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Have a nice evening. Bye-bye.